Why would you DIY that one thing that decides if someone's going to trust you and buy from you? Like, why take that risk? What is branding? So I thought I'm going to explain it to you with an object. So what you can see here is a candle, a plain, white, boring candle. There's no story. There's no meaning behind it. There's no reason why you should buy this from me as opposed to going on Amazon, IKEA, or even Temu. And this is how a lot of people start their businesses. They just show up with the thing, the product, the service, and they focus on the function behind the object. But the whole point of branding is to build an emotional connection. It's to build meaning. So imagine now there is a young mom and her kids are now at kindergarten and she wants to start a business, but she doesn't know what. So she's like coming up with ideas while, making breakfast. She's cleaning up her kid's bedroom. And sometimes she's even on the floor scrabbling through notes. And then she's just like struggling and she's always distracted. And then she goes on her phone and then the comparison trap happens where you're comparing yourself to other people. And what she realizes is she has a distraction problem and she struggles to focus. Focus, that is the main thing. And she was thinking, I wonder if other people can relate to this. And what is something or maybe an object in my home that can remind people to focus? And so she picks up a candle and she doesn't focus on the scent of it or the aesthetic of it, but the intention behind it. And she was thinking, why don't I start a business where I'm going to sell candles? And the main intention when somebody lights this candle is they're ready to build their future self. Now, can you see what I did there? From just this bland, random candle where you had no emotional connection to it, we have now built a story, meaning, and an emotional connection. Just by me giving you some story that just shows that you can brand almost anything. Now let's take it a step further. How do we actually express this in the world? Because no one has time to listen to this whole spiel about how this lady was sitting on her floor and coming up with the idea. Our most powerful sense from all our 5 senses is our eyes. We're constantly scanning our environments to see if something is safe. Can we trust it? And that's why design is so powerful because we need to learn to use it as a signal. So let's imagine now this founder came to me and she said, Shirley, I want you to design my brand. And now that I understand her brand foundation, her mission, her vision and purpose, I have to design it. Now, most people might think that, I should design this focus brand rooted in like neutral colors or calming colors or very calm aesthetic, like the boho chic vibes. And I don't have anything against it, but it's predictable. And the whole point of also branding is to differentiate yourself from the market. There's no point entering the market if you're going to look like your competitor out there. So let's say that I've gone through her competitors. I noticed everybody's doing and going around with this neutral beige aesthetic. And I said that what does it mean to be focused? There's like an intensity, there's an intention behind it. There's a seriousness behind it. And so I was like, you know what? I think we should go and explore purples. And I know it could be a very jarring, a very shocking color, but that's not a bad thing when you enter a market because you're most likely, oh my God, I can't even put a sentence. You're more likely to be remembered when you come up and really just disrupt the market visually. People are going to remember you more. Now, how do you actually sell these focus candles? Let's take it a step further. You would probably go and launch an e-commerce site, and your e-commerce site could look something like this. It's kind of not even about the candle at this point. You're just getting an overall feeling, and that's evoked through the colors, the layouts, the fonts, the shapes. It's not even like explicitly like a candle. This also almost looks like artwork. And now we have this strong intention behind the candle. Let's keep away the candle. Imagine the candle didn't even exist. And the founder is thinking, you know what? Like, people really resonate with this story. What if I open a business center? And the whole idea of the center is to host focus building workshops. And so she decides, you know what, I'm going to open a center and then host events. The brand no longer is about the candle. It's no longer about the product or service. It's about the meaning and intention behind it. And so what started out as just a random candle in my hand is now a whole story. It has connected with people. There is a desire to buy it. And that literally what I did, branding is the art and science of perception. It's about building that perception. And you can do that with everything, with the right verbal and visual elements that come together. Does everybody get this? Is everybody on track? Okay, great. Now, another thing is, why does even branding matter in today's world? We understand the relevance of it, but, and I'm sure you also can relate, is, and I'm using this word carefully, we're almost assaulted with a lot of information all the time. We're on our phones, and there's Instagram Reels, TikToks. We're like, let me take a break. Let me check my emails. You don't even get emails from clients or your work anymore. It's from random newsletters. And then you were like, wait. Let me go out for a walk. And while they're going out for a walk, you see all the delivery bikes with all of their branding. There's a lot of ads plastered on billboards and on vans and buses. You can't seem to catch a break. And what that means is, as consumers, we've become information rich. But we only have 24 hours in a day, and that makes us time poor. So we simply do not have the bandwidth to just go through all these benefits and features of these products and services, read through their websites. We're literally scanning for everything. And the way we buy now is through emotion. So we kind of look at how can we buy something that has meaning? How can it build an identity? Do we trust it? Does it resonate with us? And we buy now a feeling. It's not like back in the day where there was like a few products and services. Right now, most likely, if you're going to come into the market, your product or service probably already exists. But the way you can differentiate yourself is honestly through branding. Now, I think that the whole purpose of a brand, and as illustrated with the candle example, is to connect and build trust with people. But why do you want to build trust with people, right? Because when you build trust, people buy. That's like the shortcut. And so another way to look at branding is it is the ultimate, most powerful shortcut to get someone to buy from you. Okay, now I'm going to introduce to you some rookie mistakes that I see businesses make. Well, first I wanted to introduce you to the branding iceberg. And what we typically see most of the time is this. And so people think this is the main thing, whereas we have all of this happening to build the visible part of the brand. I'm so happy you guys are taking a photo. I took forever to design this. This is what our overall brand identity looks like. Unfortunately, like mentioned before, people only focus on the logo obsessed client. And I have so many inquiries where someone's like, surely I just want a logo. I was like, okay, how do you want it to be designed, or what's the purpose? Oh, I just have a product and just design it. The problem with this is it's a logo on its own. It's just a fancy artwork. No one's going to connect with it. Sure, you can get some buyers, but what is going to make people stay? Then you have the people who, they understand design. They understand the relevance of it. But it's just, again, pretty visuals, no strategy. There's no foundation. And at this point, this is becoming an art project. And I'm assuming this is how an iceberg breaks. But if you don't have a foundation, everything sinks. And your business, there's no point even starting it if you don't have a strong foundation. And then the third thing, which is now what I'm seeing recently, is people are focusing, which is great. People are focusing on the invisible part. They're understanding their competitor space. They're understanding their target audience, what makes them different. But then they decide that, when it comes to design, I want to take a shortcut. I don't want to work with an agency. I don't want to work with a brand designer. I want to save some money. I want to use the money for something else. And they end up going the DIY route. I love DIYing, by the way. I do it a lot. But when it comes to your business, I don't think it's worth the risk. And for people who think that DIY is the way, I would simply ask you, why would you DIY that one thing that one thing that decides if someone's going to trust you and buy from you. Like, why take that risk? And the best way to illustrate this is, imagine you have invested and worked with an agency or a designer, you got your professional brand identity. Then you start your Instagram page, which implements that brand identity. You're building awareness, people know who you are. Then you start selling your products on a website, and then you get marketing campaigns. So now people are really like invested in your product. And because you've been so consistent with that brand identity, you've connected with them, you land that sale. Because you've done the groundwork, you've done it correctly. As opposed to if you start doing it on your own, you're already messing up from the beginning. And it's no point of you develop everything else and you've just lost a potential customer. So you can maybe get a nice artwork and maybe some people may come to your Instagram page, but what is your Instagram page based on? It's just random like templates or colors or pictures of your product or service. Everything looks messy, and you and I know that we buy based on trust. You know if something looks not so great, and if you don't know the founder or your friend or the person behind it, you're not going to spend more than a few seconds on their Instagram page or website. So that's why I say that you can DIY a lot of things, but I feel like a brand identity is something that you just can't afford to do in your business. And to just go further about what are the type of mistakes that I see, the first is going on to Canva and using Canva logo templates. I want to say that I love Canva. I think it's a powerful platform, but you have to remember that these templates are accessible by everybody around the world. And as I mentioned earlier, the whole point of branding is to differentiate yourself. So why would you choose a logo template that's been done or can be used by everyone else? It's like point defeated. Then the second thing that I see, and because now AI is the new hot thing, is people going and uploading their strategy documents into ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT giving up these mood boards. This is not a mood board. This is just like, what is referenced over here? Nothing. It's just words and colors, and there's no meaning behind it. There's no thought process behind it. And sure, this also looks much better than that. But again, it's referencing, like, it's just making up random stuff. So the way I think about AI and all these tools is they are powerful, but you need to know how to use them. And a great example is, imagine you give a really bad cook the most professional kitchen equipment and the best ingredients, and they cook a very mediocre meal, as opposed to giving a 5-star chef the most basic ingredients and tools, and they can still whip out a Michelin star food meal. That's basically the idea of your tools. Like, it doesn't matter if it's powerful, it's how you use it. So that's why you need to work with somebody who knows how to execute and use these tools. There's no way I would try to do a photo shoot on my own because I simply don't know how to use all the different settings. Like, sure, I can take a great photo, but there is a difference between an amateur, where I would call myself an amateur photographer, versus someone who's professional and who's been doing it for years and who understands lighting and everything else. And then finally, the last mistake that I see is people going onto Pinterest and saving a bunch of trendy stuff right now, or they're copying their competitors. And it's good. Like, it's great to be aware of trends, but we have to remember trends are a reflection of what's popular in our time right now. And within a few months or years, people are going to move on. And if your brand is based on a trend right now, it's going to fall behind. So again, it's very redundant for you to build a brand based on trends and copying competitors. And this is what ends up happening. You will have a great strategy, but you'll have unprofessional or ugly visuals. So I hope, maybe some of you are making these mistakes. You can go back and check and kind of fix it, because you probably have amazing products and services and you're worrying, like, why am I not being seen? Why is no one buying from me? It could be one of these mistakes. And I'm going to introduce you now to some design basics, because like, how can you rectify this, right? And if you're not a designer, it's fine. If you're looking to work with a designer or agency, this is going to offer you as a guide. So as I mentioned earlier, design is a signal, right? Like, you have to think of your brand as a person? Like, how do you even come up with the idea of colors or fonts or logos? And I focus on these 3 human traits because I always talk about building connection. And this is what I apply to my client projects. I focus on personality. Like, imagine if your brand was a person on its own, how would they act? Then their tone of voice, how would they sound like? And then finally, the values. What do they stand for as a brand? Once you know this, then it's easy to move into the design phase. And these are examples of like these big brands that when you break it down, you can actually see it's reflective of the brand. And that's how these 2 interchange and they work with each other. I'm not going to go through each one, but you guys can take a photo or just like have a snapshot. So here's Lululemon, where as a summary, they're kind of like built on community and high performance wear. And then you have BMW, which is something that's very sporty, it's powerful. Their values are like, into innovation, and their tone of voice is very confident, it's aspirational. And then there's an example of one of my clients, which is a beauty salon in Riyadh. And they didn't want to be like a flashy beauty bar. They wanted to have their space be very approachable, calm, warm. And if you go to their Instagram page or even in the salon, it reflects exactly that. And to give you some context, this client actually came to me with just a logo. And she was like, Shirley, I need a brand system, because how do I actually express this on my Instagram, on my website, on my packaging? And I'm great that she recognized it, because even when it came to the execution of the interiors, they used the brand guidelines to help execute that and maintain that consistent image. So what are the main things about a visual identity from the design part? There's so many different things, but I'm going to break it down and make it easy for you. We have the logo. And I'm just going to go, how do you actually come up with a great logo? Number 1 is it should be simple. Don't try to fit your whole meaning and story and your passions and dreams into it. It's just a way to identify your brand and to give you that immediate feeling. Number 2 is ensure that it's flexible so that it can work on small surfaces, on big surfaces, whether in black or white, and have a different palette to be able to contrast. And then obviously reflect the brand essence. The whole point is it should kind of strike up that emotion or feeling that you want immediately when somebody looks at your brand. The thing is, consider how the logo will look like in physical spaces. So this is actually my work. And I wanted to just give you an example how all the logos I designed have nothing to do with the product. This is an iced tea brand where they wanted it to feel premium. So here you can see it looks very premium and chic. This is a coffee brand. There's no coffee in the logo. It's actually based in Riyadh, and we wanted to use the prickly pear. Then we have 2 Pilates studios. One is in Riyadh, one's in Dubai. I don't know if anyone's been here. Ikaya. Okay, you guys should check it out. But the idea was like we wanted to capture movement. And then Ikaya, it was based on 2 disciplines. It's a Pilates and yoga studio, and they're 2 founders. So we wanted to capture, the yin and yang kind of concept. So we wanted to capture that into the whole brand. And then finally, this is another beauty salon in Oman, and they wanted it to be very sharp and edgy, which is how it's reflected in the logo. But you can see that I've designed nothing to do with the actual product or service. It was all about feelings and maybe where the branding comes from and so on. The second thing is color. I'm just So the way to work with colors is don't base it on your personal preferences. Remember, your business is not for you. It's for people to buy from you. So you want to, the same thing like the logo, evoke the right emotions, which is why you should do that exercise in the beginning, like the brand personality, values, and tone of voice. And then ensure contrast and readability. I'm seeing so many brands launch with this beige neutral aesthetic, and you can't read anything because they're putting white fonts against beige backgrounds. What is the point if you can't read your messaging? So ensure that even if you pick nice colors, that they can contrast against each other and makes it easy for text and elements to stand out. And then lastly is color is such a powerful way to differentiate your brand. It actually takes up more real estate than your logo. Think about it, when you're on a website, the logo's at the top, you scroll, the logo's gone. What are you seeing in the website? You're seeing fonts, you're seeing imagery, you're seeing videos, you're seeing colors. So people should actually be focusing and spending more time thinking thoughtfully, what are the colors that best reflect that? And then finally, you have your fonts. And basically, when it comes to fonts, there's so many trends right now with this like extremely cursive and going over the top. Again, if you can't read it, what's the point of having it super designified? And the way also to pick fonts is it should reflect your tone of voice. So we can't interact with our customers anymore. Everything's online, and fonts play a huge part in that. The way someone comes in your website, the font you choose is going to best reflect your brand's tone of voice. And then, as a good rule, you want to stick to 2 to 3 fonts, like for your headings, subtitles, and body text. And here are some examples of different brands. This is an olive oil brand, but here you can see it just feels very approachable. It's very inviting, just with the fonts and the colors that they use. Then we have Rare Beauty, which is a bit more classic, it's a bit more airy. And then finally we have BMW, where it's a bit more tech driven, it's more intense. And even if I take out all of these logos, you can still get that feeling and emotion from these websites just using great layouts, fonts, and colors. And the last thing is, does anyone know what a brand guideline document is? Yes, no, yeah, okay. I don't know if you're the person who doesn't see the importance of it, because I've actually had inquiries where someone's like, oh, I want the brand identity. And they're like, but I don't need the brand guidelines. Your business works with other businesses. The brand guidelines isn't just for you. It's for all these people that you'll be working with. It's going to make it easier for everybody who's going to work with you how to implement your brand. They're going to understand your brand when you have events, when you have a pop-up, interior designers, partners, collaborators. They know how to handle your brand. They understand it. So you need the brand guidelines, not for you necessarily, but for everybody who's working with you. And true story, one of my clients in Saudi, I delivered the brand guidelines, and the social media agency that worked with them contacted me out of nowhere. I'm like, how did you find me? They were like, you did such a great job with the brand guidelines. We're able to implement and execute your the socials. And someone wanted branding, and we found you through the brand guideline document, which just shows how powerful brand guidelines can be when other random businesses are saying that it makes their job easier as well. And I want to leave you with this is we tend to try to cram everything into a brand or a visual and basically try to strip it back, strip down to the main message. Going back to my lovely candle example, the main message was to focus, to bring back focus, and we did that with the candle. So think with your business, with your product or service, what is the main thing you want people to feel or take away from it?
My question here is like, at what stage you decide to...
So you want to understand when should you start working on the brand identity? Yeah, the design stage. I think you need to first have your product or service done. A lot of times the products are not even finalized. There's issues with the factories, and you want to make sure that you have a proper product. It's tested, and also you can legally sell it, because I've had an issue where clients have rushed to the branding and they never ended up launching the product. So once you know your product and service, then it's time to launch your business. And if it's a product-based businesses, you want to start 6 to 9 months before your intended launch, because you want to plan for the photo shoots, obviously the production, building the website, and so on. So 6 to 9 months is like the sweet spot.
However, I'm at the stage where I'm not too sure if my brand is DIY. And if it needs a feedback.
So when you said a resort wear brand, right? Yeah. So when you look at the competitor space, do you feel that they look similar to you?
No, because like you said, right now what's really trending is like demure, sand, neutral colors.
Yeah.
And my brand is based on that colors you have. So I've got
Nice.
yellows and blues, which represents sun.
Yeah.
So going back to the personality of the brand.
I think the easiest way is you can just get in touch with like designers agencies. You have a free, most people offer like a free call, like a free call. I offer a free call. I just go through it and I'm just like, I think this is lacking. I think this looks DIY, and I can just give you my opinion that I think that this should, like be more professionally designed or not. And I'm sure other agencies and designers offer the same thing. So just like ask a few, get in touch with like 3 or 4, you'll know if you're on the right path or not. So you have like expert eyes or advice, You're not asking them to design anything for you. You just want their opinion. Yeah, just be like, hey, listen, I'm not sure. Could you just have like, I don't know, a 10-minute call. And I'm sure any designer or agency, like a smaller agency maybe, because it's like you're a smaller business, they would make time for it.
Just want to know in terms of like obviously when you're a small business or working on your own, what's the kind of like how would you budget or like say do you set tabby or do you do installments? Like in terms of pricing, it's obviously branding is really important.
Yeah. So there's different ways you can work with a designer or agencies and people the way they budget. Some people they've come to me almost a year, and I'm surprised they come and turn up a year later, and they just want to ask and understand my pricing, and they know that they have to budget for it. Obviously, like a year later, I will inform them that my prices will probably be up a bit. But that is one way where you can just start asking people and getting on calls and just, if you don't, and sometimes people like don't want to waste their time on a call. So just send an email, just not asking them for the exact price, but price range. So you get a feel of the market of like this type of person with this type of work charges this or so on. And then usually again with agencies and designers, they have their own payment process. Example with me, I take like a 50% at the beginning and then 50% at the end. Whereas sometimes some agencies that are more bigger, I don't know if any agencies do tabby or not, but I feel like that's more for product businesses.
Business model like installments or
Yeah, it's installments. And then otherwise you break it down in processes. I rarely do this, but I know some clients do like the creative, like the strategy part first. Then they focus on like the logos, colors, and fonts. And then afterwards you have like the end, the application and the guidelines. So you can break up your project in like 3 installments.